Hello and welcome. You're watching the Global Reset from CNBC TV 18 Prime Ionic Wealth Studios. I'm Prashant Nair. On the program today, we'll be speaking with Abhijit, the trade expert, on India-U.S. trade and that deal and that no deal. And of course, Trump's latest comments with regards to Indian rice exports. He's going to sort of single that out in overnight comments. Later, we'll, of course, also talk to Patrick Horstman, CFA Managing Partner at Horstman Holdings, LLC. And we switch gears completely. We talk about crypto and Bitcoin. Here in India, of course, it's seen as a bit of a risk indicator, highly correlated with maybe the non-profitable technology part of the U.S. market. And a lot of movement there. So that conversation a little later. But as always, before I get to both our guests, let me just quickly get you a quick read-through of the action that unfolded in global markets. So stocks on Wall Street closed Monday on a somber note. Investors tapping brakes before the final Fed decision for this year. Of course, the meeting starts today, decision tomorrow. Markets here in India will react to it Thursday morning. Tech stocks were higher in trade last night. Of the 11 S&P 500 sectors, it was the technology names that closed in the green, largely aided by moves in chipmaker stocks. Shares of Broadcom, Nvidia, Microsoft were all higher. Take a quick look at separate news flow with regards to Nvidia. U.S. President Donald Trump has said the company will be allowed, and the tweet is up on the Truth Post is up on your screen right now. Nvidia will be allowed to ship its H200 AI chips to, and I quote, approved customers in China on the condition that U.S. gets a 25% cut. And that's the post. Trump essentially saying that Xi Jinping has responded positively to the proposal. The policy, he said, will support American jobs, strengthen U.S. manufacturing, and benefit American taxpayers. The Department of Commerce is finalizing details, and the same approach will apply to AMD, Intel, and other great American companies. That's the exact quote from President Trump. Well, stocks in Asia Pacific this morning are largely trading in the red. Caution mounts across markets ahead of that key Federal Reserve policy. Remember, expectation is that the Fed will cut, but it'll be a hawkish cut, which means one cut now, and then maybe a bit of a pause for the next few meetings. Nifty, we fell sharply, almost like a repeat of what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, it looked like a capitulation kind of session. This morning, it was looking similar, but we bounced and bounced smartly, now down about 100 points on the benchmark Nifty. The small cap indexes bounced, and the mid caps have staged a bit of a recovery as well. Okay, on to that FOMC, that Federal Reserve meeting that begins today. This is Steve Leisman from CNBC on what the Fed will do and what the poll is indicating.
The Fed is making the current decision with the delayed, without the data, but it's also putting those forecasts together. And maybe what people don't understand is that when you put a forecast together, a good chunk of what you think is going to happen is based upon what you think happened or what the prior data say. So I don't understand these models that are going to spit out the Fed's forecast for unemployment, CPI, and growth. It strikes me they're going to be kind of worthless, and the market's going to have to really take a key part of the Fed's forward guidance, which does come in these forecasts, with a huge grain of salt. And that's going to stick around, by the way, until March. It's not until March they come out with another set of data. So all of this strikes me that if the Fed is data dependent, I don't see what it would have hurt them to wait a week. If you look at what comes out next week, the jobs numbers come out and inflation data come out. And it's not just 1 month's worth of data. It's 2 months' worth of data.
Okay, as markets await that decision from the Fed, U.S. President Trump has signaled the possibility of new tariffs on Indian rice. This comes ahead of the U.S. trade delegation that's arriving in India tomorrow, that is, for a 2-day visit. Listen in to what he had to say.
Tell me about India. Why is India allowed to do that? They have to pay tariffs. Do they have an exemption on rice?
No, sir. We're still working on their trade deal. So
yeah, but they should be dumping. I heard that from others. You can't do that.
There's a WTO case against India
now. Give me the countries, if you could. Go ahead. India. Who else?
So India.
Mark it down. What's your skin?
Yes, sir.
India, Thailand, China into Puerto Rico, not into the continental U.S., but into Puerto Rico. They've bought the largest brands at retail too, right? So they have an incentive to subsidize their products so that they can keep it on the shelf.
Yeah, who did that?
The Indians own the 2 largest brands.
All right, then we'll take care of it. It's so easy.
Well, President Trump also suggested he could target Canadian fertilizers to support domestic production.
A lot of it does come in from Canada. And so we'll end up putting very severe tariffs on that if we have to, because that's the way you want to bolster here. And we can do it here. We can all do that here. But I would say what you do, you put very severe tariffs on from coming into other countries. You'll be making your own fertilizer very soon.
Abhijit Das is international trade expert and former head center for WTO studies. He's with us now. Mr. Das, thanks very much for joining us. Good to speak with you.
Thank you, Prashant, for having me on your show.
You know, it was a long back and forth with in that press conference last night. And am I wrong in saying almost singling out India in that sense? There was a bit about Canada as well. But if you hear the full thing, almost sort of, picking up on his own initiative and asking his colleagues about India and what's happening with India. So what do you make of it?
Prashant, you're very right that if we look at that entire video, it appears as if President Trump is singling out India, and that's not unusual. Both the countries have been trying to negotiate a bilateral deal, and Indian negotiators have been very strong in not caving into the pressure of President Trump. So naturally, that appears to have annoyed United States and President Trump. And given that background, President Trump would like to take any opportunity, any excuse to run down India. And the latest episode on rice is just one in that series of episodes where President Trump, or be it Howard Lutnick, or be it other responsible high-level officials of the US, they don't miss an opportunity to run down India. But we should look at it as more of a negotiating tactics to put pressure on India to agree to what the US is demanding in the trade negotiations.
You think ahead this trade delegation headed by the deputy USTR, which is in India from tomorrow, how do you see that? You think it's continuation of talks, or where will this? How will this happen now? Whenever it happens, and it'll happen between who? I mean, who's the person on the US side, and who's the person on the other side? Will it happen at this level, a deputy USTR?
The visit of Deputy USTR will be more about technical issues, ironing out a lot of complex technical matters, maybe around, let us say, rules of origin, or on issues related to standards. But eventually, from the US side, the call will be taken by President Trump. From the Indian side, all of us are aware that our government works on the concept of collective responsibility of the cabinet. So really, it'll be the commerce minister who will take the lead in conjunction with his other ministerial colleagues, maybe from the departments of agriculture or Ministry of Information Technology and Electronics. And finally, the cabinet will have to take a call on it. So the forthcoming visit of the deputy USTR should be viewed from that perspective in terms of ironing out last bits of complex technical matters.
You know, markets, of course, do their own thing, and there's been expectations for some time. It's going to come through and it's going to happen. But they've been disappointed so far as we wrap out 2025 as well. Do you think it's about specifics in the agreement itself? And I think that we've discussed this earlier as well. Give this, take that. What can we allow, not allow? Or you think it's kind of beyond that now? It's more leader to leader now.
It's a complex mix of different factors. First, of course, is what is in the negotiating basket. US is very keen to pry open India's agriculture market, dairy market, as well as poultry and marine sector. The Indian government, starting from the Prime Minister, have been very clear right from the beginning that the interests of Indian farmers, fisher folks, dairy, as well as poultry will be protected. So given these two divergent perspectives, arriving at a common ground which satisfies both the partners is naturally proving to be very, very difficult. So that is one. The second, of course, is if the US brings in the mix issues around digital trade, then that could pose particular problems for India from the perspective of having to cede the policy space, having to cede the flexibility to nurture its domestic players in the burgeoning digital sector. But going beyond trade, there could be linkages with other aspects. For example, what one has been hearing in some of the media writings, these are, of course, unconfirmed, that there could be linkages with defense purchases, where the US appears to be dragging its feet in agreeing to some very reasonable, justified demands of the Indian side. There could, of course, be something personal from President Trump's side as well. Let's bear in mind that for President Trump, the personal dimension overrides any other perspective. So, to my mind, the delay in finalization of the agreement really is on account of a large number of factors. And till the stars align in the right direction, coming to a trade deal, finalizing it, which meets the aspirations of both sides, will be very difficult.
Uh, no, and I think it's the market's kind of sort of reflecting that now as well. Maybe reconcile to the idea that there's no point really putting, or rather, jumping up and down and getting excited about every small bit. It'll happen when it'll happen. And we're seeing some of that, I think, in both the forex market and the rupee market here, of course, in stock markets as well. Mr. Das, we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate your time here for that quick discussion this morning. We'll take a quick commercial break. We are back. More on markets, but very different kind of markets on the other side. Crypto, Bitcoin, we saw that large fall, a decent recovery, a decent bounce as well. Patrick Horstman, CFA, Managing Partner at Horstman Holdings LLC, on it in just a bit.